Hello Space Cats, and welcome back to my channel. This week is the 50th anniversary of the first man to ever step foot on the moon. So this week's video, I'm going to be talking about the moon landings, how we did it back then, and how we're going to do it now.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Apollo 11 lands on the moon July 20th, 1969. It launches from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on board a Saturn V rocket, and it takes 3 days to reach Moon's orbit, there which the Command and Service Module Columbia is waiting. On board are 3 astronauts, Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil Armstrong. For all of these astronauts, this was their second space flight, but it was also their last. The following day, Neil Armstrong becomes the first man to step on the moon. Buzz Aldrin becomes the second, but Collins, unfortunately, stays on board the Columbia module. Upon descent to the lunar surface, the 2 astronauts noticed that the target area for landing was completely covered in boulders. It would have been dangerous to land there, so instead Armstrong had to manually maneuver the lander to an area safe for landing. He successfully does so, and they touch down with 25 seconds worth of fuel to spare. Any longer and it would have activated the automatic abortion of the mission. They would have had to return to Columbia orbiting the moon. The first thing they do when they land on the moon is unravel the first science payload. This is a solar wind experiment to measure the ions and the energy of the solar wind. This experiment was made by the Swiss, and it's for this reason that some people claim the first flag on the moon was Swiss and not American. The astronauts collect moon rock and dust to bring back to the Earth, 22 kilograms in total, or about the same weight as an 8-year-old child. Upon re-entry to the Earth, the moon rocks have to be held and declared at customs. In total, we've brought back about 400 kilograms of moon rock to the Earth. That's equivalent to 8 times of me. Just when they were ready for departure, Buzz Aldrin notices a broken switch on the floor. It's the switch for the circuit breaker that's required to fire up the engines in order to ascend. Unfortunately, they didn't know what to do, so they went to sleep. The following day, when a solution still wasn't found, Buzz Aldrin decided to stick a felt-tip pen into the breaker where the switch should have been. Somehow, this managed to get them safely off the moon's surface. And when they did return to the Earth, the astronauts were quarantined for 21 days. This was to prevent any contamination by microorganisms, because at the time, no one knew whether or not the moon was inhabited by any forms of life. The motivation to go to the moon was a space race between the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, and the US, because the Soviets had successfully launched the first space satellite, Sputnik. The US in total has spent $25 billion on the 19 launches of the Apollo program. That works out to be about $1.3 billion per mission. Humans have not been back to the moon since 1972. That's 47 years. But still, American citizens are the only citizens to have set foot on the moon. But perhaps that's about to change, because once again, the space race is on to go to the moon. This time, however, the competitor is China. China have plans to colonize the moon by 2036, and they already have a successful prototype of the self-sustaining lunar palace, Yugong-1. The facility is located in Beijing, and it's seen 3 analog astronauts survive for over a year in a self-contained environment. But China only has 1/10 of the US budget for space activities. In the meanwhile, NASA has teamed up with ESA, JAXA, CNSA and ROSCOSMOS to develop the Lunar Orbital Platform Gateway, lop-g. Think International Space Station, but orbiting around the moon. The idea is that astronauts could dock onto the station and then later be lowered down to the surface. NASA and ESA are developing the Orion capsule specifically to get humans back to the moon. It's going to be like the Columbia Command module used in the Apollo missions, except it will hold up to 4 people and it will only get them as far as the Lunar Gateway. As of yet, there are no lunar landers that are capable of getting humans onto the surface. And furthermore, the SLS rocket, which Orion will launch on, is still facing delays. The Artemis program has a deadline of getting humans back to the moon by 2024, and it has a budget of only $1.6 billion. So what do you think? Will NASA make it back to the moon by 2024, or will they be beaten by the Chinese? Let me know in the comment section below, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share and subscribe.